Thank you for joining, everybody. My name is Mike Brendafino. I'm the chairman of the IMCCA. We're an organization that has historically focused on trying to enhance communication between the users of collaboration and generally the vendors and manufacturers and service providers in the space. And this has taken the form of education programs, forums where we connect users and users together and also connect vendors so we can, try and improve the overall experience. And we're really happy to get involved and present this inclusion initiative, which we're going to be talking about today. COVID really changed the way we work, and it really made this tool, these collaboration tools become vital in keeping businesses going forward. But what it also did, it really exposed some challenges that maybe some of us don't realize exist for folks in our organizations that weren't able to visit the offices, and suddenly they're on the same playing field with the rest of us needing to attend remotely. And so this initiative is really to help educate companies, educate people on some of the challenges out there, as well as try and foster a conversation to improve it across what we do in our companies, what we do with trade shows, and how we use collaboration to include everybody in the organization and really level that playing field. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Gary Lasasso from Amicus so he can tell you a little bit of what Amicus is doing, and then introduce Anthony. Gary?
Great, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm here to, my name is Gary Lasasso, by the way, and I'm the Senior Director of Global IT at Amicus. Amicus is a biotech company that develops treatments for people living with rare and devastating diseases. So, and part of my role at Amicus is to provide our employees with the most innovative, but at the same time, easy to use collaboration tools to help make their jobs easier. After all, it's the scientists and the researchers that are doing the job to develop these treatments, and we'd like to keep them in their jobs as much as possible. And we in IT and in my role help to present those tools to people to make things more efficient. What we're also doing is we're building what we're calling the Amicus Collaboration Center of Excellence, located in Central New Jersey. And the goal there is really to create equity in experiences for people who are remote, people who are in the office, and certainly what we're here to talk about today is people living with disabilities. For a number of years now, I know Mike and Ann and others and you guys that are joining us today, have been talking about collaboration and been preaching that any place, anytime, any device collaboration is real. The last 21 months or so have shown us that this stuff, does actually work, and we can, create equity, create inclusion with the experiences for people who are remote. Just take a step back. I was cleaning off my desk because, my wife. Well, I put the background up, but my wife doesn't like my dirty office to be shown in when I'm on video. But I have this. You can't see it, but I'll share it with you. It's our belief statement at Amicus. It was written 15 years ago, but it's largely remained unchanged for that period of time. If I could take a second, I just want to read a little section of it. It's our belief statement, and it talks about how we remain in the fight for rare disease therapies and to build value for our stakeholders. But the section I wanted to share with you is we believe in each other, to foster teamwork and respect for each individual's contribution. Our passion for making a difference unites us. Diversity of experience and thought is essential. We communicate openly, honestly, respectfully. Our families are part of the Amicus experience. And in addition to other things, we have fun. Of course, some of my colleagues will say I use the "we have fun" line a little bit too often around. But I think it's interesting that was written 15 years ago. But more than ever, the respect for each individual's contribution is critical. And it's not only it's not only the people, whether we're in the office or at home, but it's those people who are living with our employees who are living with disabilities that we're now able to engage much better because of the technology and what we've learned. So about a year ago, our CEO published an article that was published in LinkedIn and other places, and it talked about people living with disabilities. He has 2 children with Pompe disease, and that's kind of the story behind our company. And he talked there about, frankly, it's really a disturbing fact to me, is that the unemployment rate for people living with disabilities is north of 60%. As frankly, as society and as human beings, we should be, can't be satisfied with that. It's just not acceptable. So I think really that's one of the silver linings of COVID, is the benefit of what we've learned, as Mike talked about a few seconds ago, and having people, of all shapes and sizes and differing abilities to be able to be, really part of and contribute, like our belief statement says, to be contributors. So this technology works, and it's important that we utilize it for this, in this case, like Mike was talking about. So I'm going to, in a second, turn it over to my Amicus colleague, Anthony Virgilio. Anthony's, frankly, he's been an inspiration to me. After reading that article that John wrote and, understanding, Anthony's situation, he and I have worked together a lot, prior to COVID, but now in helping create some technology that works for him. And I'll let him tell the story. He's certainly much better at it than I am. So it's really about, sort of the things we did to think outside the box, to do that. And he'll give you an example of one of the things that we did. And that's really how we took that idea a year ago, working with Mike and Ann and others like Carol Zelkin and David Danto from IMCCA to, they've been tremendous supporters of this initiative. So we appreciate all that we are doing to partner with them and all of you guys out there to really help make a difference. Because I think through technology, we all can play a part in knocking down these barriers that have been created. So I'm sorry to go on for so long, but I'm very passionate about this topic and inclusion. We've done a number of things that Anthony could talk about with our intranet and some of our employee resource groups. But Anthony, I'm going to turn it over to you and please share your story.
Yes, thank you, Gary. It's been great collaborating with you over the years, and it's been great forming this friendship. I guess I'll start at the beginning. I live with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's a muscle weakening disease that weakens my muscles over time. You can see that I'm using a non-invasive ventilator to help me breathe, and I use a power wheelchair throughout the day. And I'm not really able to move my body that much, and I require assistance. So like early on, like being social and getting out and exploring the world was difficult for me. But over time, it became more and more difficult as my care needs increased and my abilities and muscles weakened. I needed to find a way to adapt. And I guess for a while, I couldn't really find a community online that I could really like grasp onto and be a part of. There really were not the tools that allowed me to participate in society from home. When I started at Amicus, working at Amicus about 5 years ago, we did have the technology that allowed me to work from home and only go in once a week. But it really wasn't until the pandemic started that we started to go more into the cloud and go into Teams and really go into the whole entire collaboration suite. That really allowed me to be a part of everything we do at Amicus. But it wasn't just at Amicus. There were changes across the entire world, across the rare disease space, that allowed me to be a part of a nonprofit called Our Odyssey, where we provide social connection for young adults with rare disease, which I am currently a board member of. I wouldn't have been able to participate in those events if they were in person, First of all, because travel is really difficult for me, let alone the fact that you can't go onto an airplane because there's no such thing as an accessible airplane. But it's just more comfortable and easier for me and more realistic for me to be able to basically explore the world through the internet and through the virtual world. And I've also been able to participate in the International Association of Business Communicators conference. And it really gave me the opportunity to meet other communicators, other people working in internal communications that I, like for a few years, I really was working on my own. I worked with a manager, working with Amicus, but I never really had the opportunity to see other people's perspectives or to really participate. So it was those two great things, our Odyssey and the IMBC conference, and working at home for Amicus, that really got me into inspired me to get into the advocacy space and to try to make sure that even after the pandemic ends and everything returns to the quote unquote new normal, I want to make sure that we maintain that globally inclusive format of virtual. And I understand, like, we all want to go back to in person, we all want to see each other, but there's no reason that you can use some of your resources in order to maintain a virtual option for every in person event. One great example of really what I started the IMCCA Inclusion Initiative around was I worked with David Danto from Poly and with Gary, who introduced me to David, and I was trying out a webcam from Poly, and what the amazing thing was is not only did it operate as a webcam, but it also allowed me to communicate more freely because it would cancel out the noise of my ventilator, which I'm using right now, and you probably can only barely hear it. Um, and that like small change really made a huge difference in my life. I no longer am afraid to uh, keep myself. I no longer have to keep myself muted. I no longer have to be worried that the sounds that my vents making is annoying others or myself. I can really just like be a part of the world and be a part of society and not let communication issues on my end affect that. Because to me, like I love communications. I got into the field because I just love how people think and how people communicate. I like making things more efficient, like Gary had mentioned. Um, and they're just all about inclusive communication and just providing social connection for everyone. Because I think everyone deserves to be a part of society, be it in person or virtual. Um, so that's really what the IMCCA initiative is about. It's in relation to the technology stack, which is all of the what your platforms run on, what your technology is built on. The other side of it is the inclusion stack, and that is STACC, which stands for Stories, Technology, Accessibility, Careers, and Connections. And it's those 5 pillars that I just really implore all of you to include those 5 pillars in all the business decisions that you make. Because you may create a technology or create a platform that can benefit people with rare disease and disabilities, and you might not even know it. Like the Poly webcam noise canceling feature was not created specifically for people with rare disease or disability, but in the end, it really changed my life. So it's really about being aware and about making the decision to include people with rare disease and disabilities in everything that you do. And I'll pass it over to Anne to kind of go into more about that.
Thank you, Anthony. So what we want to get out of the call today, aside of making you all aware of this, is that the goal for the Inclusion Initiative is 4 things. 1, we want to work with firms who are interested to create a framework for what this means and how it can be offered through IMCCA. We want to gather best practices because I'm sure some of you out there are already doing things in this area that we can all benefit from. We want to leverage what others are doing. And our hope is that we're going to be holding a lot of different events around this, whether they're calls like this, whether they're blogs or white papers, whether we eventually get to be face-to-face and have the people from inclusion come to us virtually, because virtually should now always be an option. No reason it shouldn't be anymore.